on hating. Haters keep on hating. That's the job, but ain't nobody paying.
Well, today I'm going to show you how to wrap a bottle decoratively with macrame. You will need a scissors, probably a lighter, a couple of big rubber bands, an empty water bottle, some kind of decorative glass bottle. This time it's Douce. Big up to Meg the Stallion for making me try Douce. This is called string liner. It doesn't have to be on this roll. Sometimes they come with just the roll and not the plastic thing, but I couldn't find one without it at the point in time. It's a braided string lighter, nylon mason line. This is a 165-pound test. I took the wrapping off the string, and then there's just an end right here that's tucked in. I'm going to cut some lengths of this string, and I think that I want them at about 3 to 4 feet long. So I'll cut one first. I've noticed that this string likes to fray, so I like to burn the edges with a lighter, so that's what you need the lighter for. But I'll burn the ends just so they won't fray. Just give it a little touch and just give it a little roll with your fingers so they don't fray. And then I can match up the ends of this string together and just use that first string to measure all the other strings. So I'll just use it to measure all the other strings. So now I can just cut them at that length. So I am done cutting my threads. I decided to cut 12. So I have 12 strings here. I need to burn all the ends of these strings, so I'll burn them all. I have burnt all the ends of the strings on both sides, so both ends are burnt so that it won't fray. You're probably wondering what the bottle is for. Well, I'm going to want to take off this ring that's on the bottle here. So you just take something sharp and just pry it off. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take each string and mount it onto the ring. So I'll take one string and I'll put both ends together like that and fold it in half, right? So we have this little loop at the end. And then I'm going to take my ring here and put the loop inside, hold it right there, and then pull the ends through that loop. This is called a mounting knot. So I put the loop through the hole, through the ring, and now I'm putting the ends of that string through that loop, and that will make a mountain knot. So I'm going to mount all 12 of my strings like that and try to keep the knot on the same side. So I want this part facing it, so I'll always push my strings through this way, and I have all my strings mounted around the central ring. The reason why I have 12 or 8 or whatever is because I want multiples of 4. Most of the macrame knots that I'm going to tie need 4 strings. So that's why I want multiples of 4, like 8 or 12 or 24. So when I fold the strings in half, now I have 24 strings because each one is making 2 strings, as you can see. So this is just one string folded in half with the mountain knots at the top. I'm going to use 4 of these strings, so I have 4 strings here, and I'm going to tie square knots. Now I don't know if you know that I've made like a macrame video tutorial. If you do not know how to tie macrame knots, then you might want to check out that video. You just put this side over the 2 middle strings and then take the other side up, put it over and through there. You might want to check out that video. 'cause this ain't for beginners. And then you come from the other side and you tie a knot. So I'm going to tie a square knot. So this is one entire square knot right there. I want it to be tight. I want each one of these knots to be pretty tight and stable. So I'm gonna tie 2 square knots, and I know I have 2 square knots because I can count the bumps on the side. These 2 little humps here, these threads that come across here, though that signifies that I have 2 square knots. So 1, 2 bumps. Now I'm gonna move on to this one here. I want them to be tight, so I'm pulling them tight before I start, and I'm gonna continue doing that all the way around on each. So that's one from this side. Pull it tight. You gotta make sure to pull them tight. And then one from the other side. And if you don't know what I'm doing, you need to check out that macrame knot tutorial video to get better instructions, because this might be a little bit confusing for beginners. So I have 2 knots there, and I move on. Make sure to pull each thread really tightly. So I think I only need 2 square knots on each set of 4. Okay, so that's what it looks like with 2 square knots on each set of 4 strings. So I'm gonna tie square knots in between of these square knots. So we have these 2 square knots, sets of square knots right here. So now I'm gonna take the 2 outer strings from that side and the 2 outer strings from this string, from that set of knots. If you can see, each one of these knots has 4 strings, but you take the 2 outer strings closest to each other in the middle to tie square knots in between of those. So that's what I'm gonna do all the way around. I'm gonna tie 2 square knots here, just the same way as I did here, all the way around. So I have 2 square knots there, 2 square knots there, and then 2 square knots using 2 strings from each one of those knots tied together in the middle. So the 4 strings that are closest together come together and make a knot in the middle. So I'm gonna continue doing that. So now around here, gotta make sure all of these are tight. You take the 2 strings from this knot and the 2 strings from that knot, and you put those together and tie a square knot in the middle here. So we have the 2 strings from this side knot, those strings, and the 2 closest strings from this knot over here. We're gonna put those together, and we're gonna tie a knot right in between there. So I'm gonna do that, put it over, put it through. So now I have those there. Now we'll bring the other one over here to this one. So these strings from this knot has 4 strings hanging. I take the 2 closest to these 2 over here, and I put them together and make a knot there. So I'm gonna just continue doing that all the way around. So I've completed that, and so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put this ring down with all the knots, and I'm gonna put my bottle on top of it. Now there's a big D in the middle. A big D in the middle. Funny. Anyway, I'm gonna place that right in the center. It seems to be in the center, so. And I can organize my strings so I know which ones are which. Okay, these 4 are those. Yeah. I'm just trying to organize my strings so that I know. It's kind of like they're radiating outwards from the center. You want them to be like even distance from each other. Now I'm gonna make sure that the D is in the middle. D is in the middle. Big douce. That looks about right. So if you can see, I have them radiating from the center of the bottle from the bottom. Each set of 4 strings going around the bottle here is attached to those knots that I already tied. So what I'm going to do is take 2 strings, 2 of the outer strings from this side and 2 of the outer strings from that side, and tie another knot in here right at the edge of the bottle. The bottle is now heavy enough to weigh down everything, so it's going to be easier to tie the knots now. So that's one square knot. Now I have to tie another square knot. So make sure all of them are tight. So that's 2 square knots right there. So I'm taking 2 strings from this knot that was already there. If you can see, there's a knot in there. And I'm taking the 2 strings from that side, and I'm taking the 2 other ones from this side, and I'm gonna tie a square knot here as well. If you're having problems seeing the strings, you just twist a bottle, it's really no problem. I'm taking 2 strings from this knot and 2 strings from that knot and meeting them in the center, alternating square knot, right? So we got the douce. I actually like the douce. It tastes pretty good. It has a little sweet flavor to it, the cognac. I tied my 2 square knots, alternating square knots out here. Now, how are we gonna get the strings to go up this way? Now we take the rubber bands for that. Take one and you put it over the bottle. Put it at the level that you want it, probably pretty low on the bottle. You can adjust it until it's at the level that you want it. You just kind of tap it down. Now we just have to slide the strings up under the rubber band. Just gotta lift up the rubber band and slide the strings under it and pick them up like that. It shouldn't be sharp. Whatever tool you're using shouldn't be sharp, but you don't have to have something like this. Then you have to organize them the way they're supposed to be. So this string here is supposed to be, I twisted them a bit so they're all effed up. So you just kind of untwist them and put them in there straight. Don't worry about it moving too much at this point because you can always fix it after. So we're just gonna twist the bottle around, turn the bottle around, and keep sliding these strings up under here. So just pick them up and pull them through there. And we have put all the strings onto the rubber band, and what we're gonna do now is tie another 2 alternating square knots. I have to take 2 strings from that side and 2 strings from this side. The rubber band helps to hold everything in place. So I'm gonna be tying another square knot right here in the middle of these 2 square knots. And of course you have to adjust them and tighten them. Try to keep it as central as possible so that it looks like it's in between of the 2. So it's in between of those 2. Now we rotate the bottle. Take these 2 strings this way, slide them over here, and then we take the other 2 from this knot, the 2 outer ones from this knot, and slide them this way. And try to tie a square knot in the middle. I want to pull it a little tighter. Make sure that it's good. Is it in the middle? Yes, somewhere around there. And we adjust it. So then I can tie my other square knot now. See? So you just rotate the bottle and continue that all the way around. So I have all this alternating square knots all the way around the bottle. Now from here I'm going to take another rubber band and I'm going to place that over the bottle. So what I find is that this rubber band likes to slide up when you put all the strings under it. So now we have a crisscross knit in between of those 2 rubber bands. Turn it around and I can use these strings over here. I have to use 2 from this side and 2 from that side. And again, you have to interlock them. The top one goes over and then under, and the bottom one goes under then over. Yeah. Okay, remember now you have to hold the rubber band in place while you do this. So gently pull them up And make sure to adjust the rubber band every time, or else it's just gonna slide, because these strings are very slippery on this glass. Just pull them through there, and don't forget to hold the rubber band while you're pulling so it doesn't move. Make sure to hold it while you adjust the strings where you want them. While I have these two where I want them, I think I'll just tie a square knot in between here to hold them in place, because I think that that's the best idea. So I'm just gonna take the two strings that come this way. See, the two strings that come this way and the two strings that come this way. I'll put them in the center, and I just tie a square knot here. If it's too slack, you could just adjust it, pull it, tie it, and tie another one. So I'm tying two square knots just like before. Alright, so we got two square knots there in between of those. So that's what that looks like. We got the little crisscross pattern going on in the middle. So you have these two strings from this knot and these two strings from that knot. And what you crisscross them first. I put the left ones over the right ones, and then I put the top string under the over, then under, and then the bottom one goes under, then over. That's on the left strings, yes. So it should make like a crisscrossing pattern that way. And don't forget, you have to hold the rubber band in place. Pull them through. Yeah. Then take the other ones. Hold the rubber band. Oops. Go there and you pull those up too. And even if you have to take your time pulling with it, just make sure you hold the rubber band, because it likes to slide on the strings. Now I can adjust it while I hold the rubber band. Yes, so we got the crisscross. Let's fix it. Now we're gonna tie one here while we're waiting. We don't want it to move around too much and become a jumbled mess, so we're just doing them as we go. So tie another square knot here, and then you can adjust it until it's tied. You want to make sure it's on top of the last one, so it should be right in line with this one. So now I've completed that all the way around the bottle. Move my rubber band up a little higher. I don't want it to move too much, so I hold everything while I'm doing that. Just gently move it up. Yeah, it looks kind of cool. Yes, looks nice. So we gotta hold it and just move it up gently. Yes, go around. We're going around the bottle, just gently moving up the rubber band and holding it in place. We got to this one. Take up this rubber band right here. So we're placing the rubber band above the knots this time. Aha, so we're done with that. Now we can continue tying square knots. So we take the two outer strings from this knot and the two outer strings from that knot and tie them right there in the center. And you gotta be careful, because sometimes you mix up the strings. So you gotta make sure that they're like the two outer strings on each side. So I take those and I tie another square knot. Come over here, baby, right in the middle. You adjust the top knot before you pull the other one up. Yeah, gotta adjust it. And then tie the other knot. Rotate the bottle. 2 strings from this knot, the 2 outer strings from this knot, and the 2 outer strings from this knot. And you tie those. It should be right above this little crisscross pattern right here. Using that as an indication of where you should stop. Come and you just tie the other side. Then you can adjust them, pull the middle strings, adjust down and until you pull the other one up. Pull the 2 outer strings and tighten right there above the other ones. Then I can tie my next knot with no problems. Next, see, just keep repeating that step over and over. 2 outer strings from this side, 2 outer strings from that side. You tie them together. I have completed that layer of knots and I'm moving on to the next layer. Again, I have to take my rubber band and just move it above the last knot. So you have to hold the rubber band in place and move it above the last knot. You might want to slip because this bottle has an odd shape. So you must hold the rubber band in place or else it won't work. It'll just slide on all the strings and become a jumbled mess. Because now the rubber band will be much slacker at this area. So just hold it and put it up there above the knot, twist, and you have to keep holding it with your hand. You just take it up, put it up there, and hold. Just keep sliding it up. Last one. Let's see what happens now. It's a little bit slack. So now as you can see, the rubber band is really slack to the top. It might be a good idea to double it. Double the rubber band so it could be a little bit tighter around the neck of the bottle. And now I have to reorganize my strings again. Let me just adjust this rubber band a bit. Make sure that it's like in one single line. Yeah, pull my strings a bit so they're tight. And yeah, you just gotta make sure to pull the strings and see if they're tight. Anyway, so again, now we're gonna tie knots in between here. So the 2 strings from this side and the 2 strings from that side. So same thing, we're gonna tie alternating square knots around the bottleneck. So I'm tying 2 square knots. That's 2 there. Rotate the bottle. Take these 2 strings from here, those 2 strings right there, and the 2 strings from the other side. Now these are twisted, so I have to untwist them. Don't forget to keep adjusting your rubber band. So now I tie a square knot here. Make sure that they're very tight when you tie them. So I'm gonna keep doing that around the bottle and come back. So I'm back and I've done all my square knots all the way around the bottle. This is what we got so far here. Everything is starting to look good, and the rubber band is helping to hold everything in place so that all the strings conform to the bottle shape. I'm now going to move my rubber band up above these knots again. I'm going to try to move that. Boop. Yeah. I keep moving around the bottle. I get this one. We just moved the rubber band above those last knots we made around the neck of the bottle, and so now we're going to tie some more square knots this way in between of those. Same thing, you take the 2 strings from this knot and the 2 strings from that knot, the outer strings, and you tie them together. So we're putting 2 knots in between again, and then you just rotate the bottle, take the 2 strings from that side, make sure you got the right strings now, then the 2 strings from this knot, so 2 strings from each one of these knots, and tie them together. Make sure to tie them tight. Rotate. Same thing, 2 strings from this knot, 2 strings from that knot. And then I'm going to continue that around my bottle, come back and do the same thing again. So I've already completed that row of knots. Now I'm going to slide my rubber band above those as well. And take my tool and just pick up the rubber band and put it above those knots. And just keep rotating and putting the rubber band above those knots. Try not to break the rubber band, of course, or puncture it. Okay, and you can adjust your strings, make sure they're tight, everything is good, and then continue doing the same thing that you were doing. 2 from this side, 2 from that side, and you tie a knot in the middle. Just make sure that they're flat. Yes, so we just keep doing the same thing over and over, and then I'll come back and show you the rest. You gotta make sure to tie these knots really tightly. Around the bottleneck, they have to be very tight. So far I have 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layers of knots around the bottleneck. So I'm gonna do the same thing again. Lift up the, oops, let me get under here, make sure I don't hook up in anything. And I'm gonna just move my rubber band above those knots again. Now you can see I've moved the rubber band above those 3 sets, these 3 layers of knots that I had. So I'm going to continue tying knots in between until I reach to the very rim of the bottle, until I reach to the very top of the bottle, up to here, right up to this point. So So I don't think I will need too many, maybe 1 or 2 more rows until I reach to that area. So now I can take off these rubber bands. I can slide them off. So that's what that's looking like around the neck there. It's cute. And now this excess string that I have here, I can either tie it in a knot or make something decorative out of it. Cut 1 more string, and I'm gonna burn the ends on that string as well. So both sides of that string will get burned. Okay, so after I burn the ends of this, I'm gonna tie a knot on the end of one of these, somewhere close to the end, just so I can identify which one of these strings is gonna be this string that I need to pull. I'm gathering up all of these strings and making sure that they're straight and even. Once they're all straight where I need them to be, I'm gonna hold it at a point where I think I want to tie, when I think I want it higher than that. Hold all the strings together at a point where I want it to tie. Now take this string here and make a loop out of it. So I bend it. There's gonna be a short side with a knot and a long side. So I make a loop, and then I put the loop over here and hold it right in the place where I want it to be. And then I'll take the long end and start wrapping all of these strings. So I'm wrapping it around, and I gotta make it lay next to each other, kind of like a noose. This is a wrapping knot or noose knot. So make sure to pull them tight, and you're just wrapping it around. Yes, you just keep wrapping it around, and you keep the strings straight next to each other. Maybe about 3/4 of an inch or an inch long for the wrapping section. Then what I'll do is find the loop. Again, I have to find the loop, and then put the long end of this string through the loop. I pull it through the loop. Now I have to find the string with the knot on it. That's the string. I have to pull that one, and I pull it as tight as possible, and that should keep all of the other strings in place. I can cut this long string, and I can burn the end of it just slightly so it doesn't fray too much, just a little bit, to put that in a bar hanging up from the ceiling. What you think? Do, 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 do. So there you go, and I can hang this on at a bar. You know, might have your favorite bottles that left over. Might be a collectible bottle of some sort, some expensive alcohol of some sort, and you can hang them from the ceiling. Or you can just decorate your house with them. Or maybe you can make it into a wind chime, you know, hang some chimes from the bottom.